All right, so I have some good news for everybody. There's a new poll that came out, PBS NewsHour poll. They asked, do you support or oppose the actions of the Trump supporters who broke into the U.S. Capitol? Look at these numbers. These should actually, give you some relief here. Only 8% of the country supported what they did. 8%. 88% strongly oppose. Only 3% of Democrats supported what they did. By the way, who the hell are those 3% of Democrats? I have no idea. Only 18% of Republicans support the action. Only 18%, and only 7% of independents support what happened. So, listen, the reason I tell you these numbers is to let you know, as insane and out of control and ridiculous and scary and creepy the current political moment is, I can assure you there are still effective red lines where virtually everybody could look at it and agree. Yeah, I'm not pro-coup, I'm not pro-insurrection, I'm not pro-rebellion. People generally believe in that sentiment, and only 8% of national adults supported what happened there. Only 8%. I haven't seen, when you look at numbers like this, honestly, you don't get numbers this conclusive unless it's like the most open and shut case issues. You know what I mean? So like getting money out of politics has support with about 90%. The $2,000 checks was 78%. The issues, raising the minimum wage is another one that's at about 80%. So it's like the most duh of all issues that gets to numbers like this. And so when you see only 8% of the country supports what happens, you should breathe a sigh of relief. Because, there was concern that maybe you'd have, maybe Trump has so radicalized the Republican base that like 80% of the Republican base would be like, yeah, I support it. No, only 18% of Republicans supported what happened. Only 18%. That's a really small number, man. That's a really small number. So breathe a sigh of relief. There's still some semblance of reasonable norms and rules. People have that internal barometer for what goes too far. And granted, ours has been not calibrated properly and out of whack for a long time. But apparently one thing that's a bridge too far is inciting an insurrection or a rebellion or a coup. And, you might think, well, duh, but was it really a given with how crazy everything is right now? I don't think it was. I don't think it was a given. I think that there was a question as to whether or not it would be a scary percentage that supported it. But they don't. They don't. And that does make me happy. That even though our system is so colossally flawed, there is still this sense of like, violence isn't the answer. And I agree with that sentiment. I really do. And, sometimes I catch shit from people to my left who think that political violence is sometimes necessary and justified. But I've always said the only time I'm okay with violence is for self-defense, as a matter of principle. And so I think that even when we're trying to reform the system and change the system in really top-down ways, in real, like, wipe the slate clean kind of ways, I still believe in the nonviolent, peaceful resistance approach. And I get the sense that perhaps that view of mine is very, very much shared broadly in the United States, where, the overwhelming majority of Republicans, 80% of Republicans, were like, no to the Republicans who wanted to storm the Capitol, do a rebellion, overthrow the government, and all that stuff. So, little sigh of relief, man. And also, this tells you, I know that I'm right when the next round of Trump polls comes out. Because what did I tell you? This isn't the boldest prediction in the world, but I said Trump's approval rating is going to plummet. He was at 42% when this happened, before this happened, and I said he's going to go down to Definitely 35 or lower. But, I would think even 30 or lower. But definitely 35 or lower. So he's going to drop at least about 10 points or so. And I do think that this is some early evidence of that exact thing happening. Because people are not going to take kindly to the fact that this guy was bringing about chaos with what he was saying. Funny enough, the last time he had a giant drop in the polls was when he threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act and when he tear-gassed peaceful protesters to do a photo op while holding a Bible in front of a church. What happened was suburban America, who previously many had supported Trump, they looked at him and said, no, you're the one who's violating law and order. You're the one who's bringing chaos and mayhem. It's not the protesters. They're mostly peaceful. You're the problem here. And so he tanked in the polls and Biden had a lead and never looked back after that. We're going to see a similar thing happen here, where everybody sort of agrees Trump is the problem. Trump is the one who's bringing about chaos and mayhem. Trump is the one who's against the law and order. And so people are going to turn on him for that reason. So anyway, the results of this really should make you happy because it shows there's still some lines that people don't want to cross.